Great. Well, good afternoon to everyone. It's, I guess this is the official report date. It's kind of hard these days considering all these players are around here all the time. There's no going home. If there is, they're going home for a week or a couple of days here and there. And so today we're all back together for the first time, starting today at 4:00, and going to have a nice dinner and get all the new guys in and just be ready to go. First practice tomorrow. A lot of experience returning on our football team. A lot of, I guess you would call them from ourselves, high expectations coming from our own selves, and looking forward to a great camp. I think we got 24 practices scheduled. I think 7 of them are in helmets. 8 are in what we call thud, and the rest are in pads. Have a couple scrimmages here in the next few weeks and just see exactly where our football team is before we kick it off September 4th against a really good Army football team. So, like everyone, it's an exciting time. Excitement's abound here in this football office today. All of our coaches are ready to go, and I think our players are ready to get back and get started. So, if you got any questions, please feel free.
Appreciate it, Coach. As Coach alluded to, if you would unmute yourself, ask your question, and then mute yourself again, we would appreciate it. You can go ahead with questions.
Hey, Coach, it's Zach. Good seeing you. I'd rather talk to the puppy, though. No, I'm just kidding. What excites you most about this team? You said you're excited about it. What excites you?
I mean, when you look at our returning starter, our returning production offensively and defensively, I think any coach that looks at that and you can see exactly where we are. We didn't lose a whole lot. We lost really one player that had significant stats from a year ago, a pass rusher, but I think we've answered that question. We've got great leadership. Our leadership from a year ago, guys that are coming back, the so-called super seniors, and then the guys that would actually be seniors coming into it. So we've got an abundance of leadership, and that means good quality practices. That means a lot of focus and a lot of energy. And when you have that much returning, it's a little bit easier on the coaching staff as well, because they've been through so much. They know what to expect and how to conduct themselves.
Well, Coach, this is Marcel, Pursuit Sports Inquirer. Thanks for joining us. I have to ask us for bookkeeping purposes, health and safety protocols. Just how's that going with everything that's going on, and just how different is it than this time last year when the situation seemed a lot more different?
We still have our protocols in place to keep our players safe. The vaccinated players, of course, are not required to do the testing, and our unvaccinated players are certainly required, and our coaching staff or whoever that is unvaccinated. So pretty similar protocols in place. COVID is what you make of it. We try to do everything by the book, and that's the way we'll play it out.
Knowing that you have Army to start the year, how much time will you spend on them and that unique offense and just doing what you do, preparing for the gauntlet of the season in general?
Yeah, you do have to prepare a little bit more. We have a little bit of extra time in camp, so certainly you're going to do that. But you got to keep in mind, we're probably not going to play another offense like Army the rest of the year, so we really can't wholesale dive that deep into it early on in camp. We will utilize a few periods for our defense to go up against it. Whenever you face a team like that, we run similar, I wouldn't say structured type plays, but we have option oriented plays that we have to get focused on as well offensively. So we'll do some periods against one another where we'll service each other, both running our stuff and their stuff, so we can get better prepared heading into that September 4th game.
And how do you think playing with 3 really tough opponents in your first month of the season will prepare you for the gauntlets of the conference schedule for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I think they're all tough. I think those first 4 games are really tough. It is what it is. You're going to play tough teams. You got to be tough yourself, and that's what we got to get accomplished in that first 4 weeks right there. We've got to become a tough football team. When you face Army, North Carolina, Charlotte, and Auburn, you've got to be ready to play at an early stage of the season. I think we do have a veteran football team, a lot of experience. That bodes well for playing tough contests early. I feel like our team will handle it and handle it well.
Coach, You've been a record-breaking offense in scoring the last 2 years. So how do you just keep finding an edge to continue to improve? Because 33 points a game is really good, but I feel like you probably think there's another level that the offense can get to.
Certainly, there's definitely another level. I mean, when you look at us from a year ago, we've got to limit some crucial turnovers. I think we had several turnovers from the running back position as far as fumbles. We had some interceptions right there that were just crucial, and those are the things that we have to clean up. For us to go from a very good offense to an elite offense, we have to have the ball security and be able to come away with that ball at the end of the drives. We can't turn it over. Everyone says that, but if you look at us a year ago, that was the telltale sign of being a very good offense and not a great offense. So that's what we've got to focus on.
Which last year, you told us about a couple of guys that maybe we didn't know about. Antavius Slame's one of them.
Yeah.
Are there a couple of guys this year that are maybe you're kind of lurking there that you're thinking this could be the time to break through?
It's hard to say because we have so many guys returning. It's not impossible to bust through and become a showcase player or a Showtime type player coming out. But we do have such an abundance of experience returning. It's going to have to be a true battle for them to emerge in this camp. We certainly have to get our experienced guys ready to play because those early contests that are going to be so difficult for us. I'm sure there's a couple guys. I mean, without a doubt, I think there's a couple guys. I think we have a wide receiver, and Robert Lewis is a guy that's probably going to bust onto the scene, already adding to a really good wide receiver core. If you look from a year ago, we had a guy by the name of Jonathan Bass that really came out of nowhere to solidify himself at the tackle position. We didn't really know that was going to happen at the time. I'm sure there's several other guys that could emerge. We're just going to have to wait and see.
Coaches Marcel, once again, you mentioned the stability and returning a lot of starters. You're also able to retain both of your coordinators on offense and defense from last season. How helpful is that to not have that much turnover on your coaching staff, especially at the coordinator spot?
Yeah, I mean, it's really critical to retain your staff, especially the coordinator positions. So many times, this day and age of football, coordinators come in and they want to bring in their system with their terminology. So you have to go back and reteach everybody the same, basically the same plays and system, but that's a new terminology. We don't have to do that. It's very familiar with all of us as a coaching staff. It's very familiar with our players. Our players run PLPs, which is player-led practices all year. They did an abundance of those this summer. They know the terminology. They can go out and execute it. And then our older guys can teach it. So retaining those two coordinator positions is very, very, it's a big advantage for us.
What are you advising your players on the whole NIL situation? What's your advice to them, how you educate them and keep individual and team kind of, task at hand, yet we understand the opportunity?
Go play well and go make your money. That's how I tell it. You want to make it? You want to make the most of your opportunities? This is a great day and age to do it. Let's go score some touchdowns. Let's get some picks. Let's put your name up on that scoreboard right there. Let people read about you, let you talk about them, and then they go reap the benefits. I'm all for it. I don't feel like it's going to take away from anything that we're trying to do here as a football team. We're around each other. We care about one another, and we care about one another off the field as well. If there's an opportunity for them to better themselves, better their families' situations, then I'm all for it.
Coach Zeke Palermo, SB Nation, could you name drop any players that have been taking advantage of the NIL bill to higher advantage than other guys?
No, I really can't, to tell you the truth. I don't pay that much of attention to it. Our compliance department has to deal with it. I've got to coach a football team and try to, defeat the X's and O's of Army and the other opponents. So I'm not really involved in all that much of it. I think they would rather me try to put them in position to score some touchdowns so they can go take advantage of that.
Do you have much of an off season? What did you do? Get off the grid, kind of reset yourself?
Me? I go straight off the grid. I go get on the water, get in the boat, go offshore a little bit and spend a lot of time on the lake. My off season certainly isn't breaking down Army or North Carolina or App State and all that other stuff. We've got plenty of time to do that. I understand when it's time to go, it's time to go, but you got to get away from this game. I think it's healthy for our players. I try to tell them all the time. Sometimes they work out too much. They go and prepare. They come here and they're in weights and conditioning, and some have got other trainers off the field. And I say, listen, you got to miss it to love it. And I like to get away. So when I'm ready to go tomorrow morning at 9:30, I'm going to be ready to practice because I've missed it.
Well, Coach, this is Marcel once again. We're speaking with Blake Carroll later on today. What about his development just from being on a reserve previously to last year being a starter, receiving all conference recognition? Just about his development last year and then coming into this year.
I think it's a great story on development. I mean, I think Blake, everybody develops a little bit differently. And I think it's based on maturity, to be honest with you. Blake is mature both physically and mentally. Has done a really good job of not buying into our football program. Early on, he, all that running, all that lifting, and all that going to class, one just didn't love it, and he's embraced it. And it's good to see him doing well off the field, doing well on the field, and it's all about physical and mental maturity. He's done it physically, so he can be able to go out there and play at a high level, and mentally as well. Now the lifts, things that were a struggle early on for him aren't a struggle any longer. He embraces them, comes to work, and does a great job. Has a great attitude. I always kid him around. He used to walk in this with a grumpy old look on his face when he used to come to the facility. Now it's a big smile and a big dap handshake, and it wasn't always like that. But those are the stories. Those are the great stories of college football. If you want to ask me, I mean that's what it's all about. Seeing a young guy grow up, mature, and become the very best he can be, and he's certainly doing that right now.
Coach, you mentioned all the leaders you have on your team. How do you do captains? Is it earned after camp? Is it game by game, season long? How do you determine that?
No, we have our team vote on the captains. I think that's one of the highest honors you can have as an individual, especially in sports. Our football team votes on them. I let those votes speak, and I don't change or do anything. I count every single one of them, and we put 4 out there, and those 4 are the leaders of our football team, unless something changes and I have to step in. But typically, it does not change.
And that votes after camp, or are they season long captains, or is it week by week?
Voted after camp, the week of game week.
And just to clarify, those captains will remain the captains for the entire season?
Yes, they will.
Okay, yeah.
Shawn, do you have any preseason superstitions, rituals, or anything like that you go through before practice starts?
I don't have any preseason. I certainly don't. I have a lot of game day, but none that I do preseason.
Coach, you mentioned taking time off away from the sport. When did you come back into the office, start working on this season?
Yesterday. Basically, I've been doing this. This is going to be my 25th season. We've got schedules in place. We understand how to build a football program. We understand our off-season conditioning. We understand our preseason conditioning. Honestly, you can do the work wherever you are, to tell you the truth. But it's we've got a really good staff. We've got a really good support staff. We all have things that we're required to do and our jobs. But honestly, we've been in back, I guess, for 2 weeks now, preparing for the season.
If you could go back and tell a younger coach 25 years ago some advice, what would you tell that coach?
I would say, make sure you make a lot before you try to make a living. A lot of coaches burn themselves out early on, thinking they've got to be there all day and all night, and answering and uncovering every question and trying to figure out every answer. It's certainly not. If you want to live a really, really good life, you've got to understand there's a great balance. I know there's a lot of different ways, but that's the way I do it. For whatever reason, I think I've been pretty successful in doing it that way. I learned from 2 great head coaches in Jerry Moore and Steve Spurrier, and how to do it, and how to be with your family, and how to manage the game of football, how to enjoy life. and know what's important in it. So I would just tell those guys to take a deep breath and relax a little bit. You know, it's going to be a long career, and they want to make sure they're in it for a long time.
Coach Spurrier could get you on the golf course though, or could he?
Sometimes he would get me on the golf course. I'd be in the F group because I was really, really a poor golfer. Still am. But yeah, I'd go out there and play with him.
Coach, you talked about this load of returning talent. One example being your quarterback in Quad Brown. Coming off that, explosive freshman year, what are you maybe looking for in him this fall in his development?
I think, Quad did have an exceptional year. It's really good to see a redshirt freshman step into that role and do as well as he did. I think if you were to ask him and myself, we probably have really similar answers. We talked about our turnovers, and I think there's some situations where you're forcing the football, and some situations where you certainly don't have to. And we had some turnovers where we could have easily put points on the game, but maybe taking the chance was a little risky at that time instead of just throwing it away. Or, sometimes you might have to take a sack. So I think it was going to be the judgment will be a lot better. His decision making is going to be a lot better. Cut down on those turnovers right there, and look for continuing to have another successful year.